if there are important decisions to be made in your life, spend time in prayer. Spend time in prayer. Jesus took an entire night in prayer. An entire night. Right? Spend significant amount of time in prayer, listening to the Lord. Right? Listening to the Lord. Confirm what you think you've heard from the Lord in His Word. Right? If you think the Lord is telling you something that is directly contradicted in the Word of God, that's not God talking. Right? But if you're saying, basically, okay, Lord, I have a job opportunity in another city, right? In another place. Should I stay here or should I go? Spend time in prayer. Talk through your options with the Lord. That sounds crazy, but you would if you're married, you'd do that with your spouse. And if you wouldn't do that with your spouse, see me after church because you need marriage counseling. Right? But include the Lord in that conversation. In fact, turn to Him first. Just like you would talk through this important decision with the important people in your life, talk through it with the Lord because He knows all. Say, God, I've got this choice I have to make. What is going to be best? And then trust what you hear. Trust what you hear. Even if it's hard. Right? I can't imagine that for Jesus, knowing that Judas would betray Him, calling Him out and naming Him an apostle was an easy thing to do. But He did it anyways because He trusted His Father. Take action as the Lord has led you in your prayer. That's what Jesus did. That's what Jesus did. Now on to His teaching. Jesus is the center of our faith. If what you believe is leading you away from Jesus, it is not the Christian faith. It is not what we hold, and it is not what the Scriptures teach. Come to Jesus for the wholeness for your soul. Look to Jesus for the wholeness in your body. Right? That's one of the things that happens at the end of days, is that your body is made whole. Right? I was asked once, well, don't you believe that God can heal people now? I said, of course God heals people now. My theology can certainly encompass God moving in a miraculous way to heal people now. What I have a problem with is that some people who claim to be Christian believe that God only heals now. Only heals now. And if God isn't healing now, it must be because of something you did. You must not believe hard enough. You must not be good enough. Maybe you didn't give enough money in the offering plate. That's a problem. That's not what the Scriptures teach. The Scriptures teach that God can and does heal now. But that in God's own time, everyone is made whole. On the last day, in glory. So if you've been praying for somebody that you love, for healing and for wholeness, and the Lord seems to not have brought that about, right? It can lead us to despair. It can lead us to turn to God and say, God, why didn't you heal my wife? Why didn't you heal my husband? Why didn't you heal my child? Especially when you're mourning and weeping, you can turn to God and you can say, this isn't right. You can wave an angry fist at heaven and turn away. But blessed are those who weep, blessed are those who mourn, for they will laugh again. Because you forgot something really important. That your horizon is not limited to this world. That even if the healing and wholeness did not come when you wanted it, it does not mean that it will never come. Because on the last day, the Lord will call and we will rise. Whole and complete. Never to suffer death or disease or pain again. So while we want that healing here and now, it doesn't mean that it will never come. Come to Jesus for wholeness, but listen to Jesus for life. Because Jesus is giving you a whole picture view. You got to get the whole picture in view, not just the individual frames or the individual snapshots. You got to get the whole picture in view. Otherwise, you will lose what's really happening. Jesus is the point of your faith. Right? If your faith and practice are leading you deeper and deeper into faith in the Lord, you're doing it right. If they're leading you away from Jesus, something's wrong. So beware the dictates of the present circumstance for determining your standing before God. Your standing before God is determined by Jesus and your faith in his name. Beware the love of the crowd. Right? The crowd will say all sorts of wonderful things about you, and if you try to start living your life to please the crowd, you're going to wander away from Jesus. And when you wander away from Jesus, you go out into the darkness where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. So listen to Jesus in the blessings and the woes. And trust Jesus even when life is hard. Especially when life is hard. Because in trusting Jesus in those moments, we avoid the woes of losing faith in Jesus when life is easy. Jesus is the center. He's the center of your faith. He's the center of your life. And the center must hold. So spend time in prayer. Spend time in the Word. Come to Jesus and trust in his name. Come to the one who blesses you with salvation.